Lewis Hamilton has assaulted Charles Leclerc by punching him in the right cheekbone of his face. This is probably the first time you're hearing about this, so I urge you to stay until the end before discussing it with your friends, because every detail matters. Subscribe just to stay tuned for the Formula One news no one else explains to you. It was meant to be a weekend carved into racing legend, the return of motorsport royalty at Suzuka, with engines howling under the Japanese sky and two crimson-clad gladiators ready to etch their names into history. Fans poured in from every continent, dreaming of witnessing Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc go wheel to wheel through the serpentine corners of this sacred circuit. But what unfolded wasn't a tale of triumph or sportsmanship. It was an eruption. A psychological thriller set in carbon fiber and telemetry, where trust was assassinated in a flickering garage light, and Ferrari's carefully curated facade disintegrated in real time. What transpired in Japan wasn't part of the script. It wasn't just another weekend in the relentless machine of Formula One. It was a mutiny cloaked in strategy meetings, a silent coup masked by pitboards and coded radio messages. And at the heart of it? The seismic implosion of a dream alliance, the icon brought in to restore glory, betrayed before the lights even went out. Thursday night should have been clinical, spreadsheets, simulations, tire allocation notes. Instead, it became a battlefield. A quiet, sterile room turned hostile the moment a junior engineer, unaware of the storm he was about to ignite, casually revealed that only Leclerc would receive Ferrari's highly anticipated new floor upgrade for FP1. Hamilton, who'd been promised, guaranteed, that very component, stared in disbelief. The room froze. No raised voice. No outburst. Just Hamilton's icy gaze slicing through team leadership as he exited in total, thunderous silence. That silence shattered the structure of Ferrari from within. Panic detonated behind the curtains. Executives whispered in corners. Engineers locked down data. Technicians tiptoed around the paddock, afraid to make eye contact. Something had been broken, not just a promise, but the fragile architecture of unity. And when Hamilton reportedly confronted team principal Frederick Vasseur, the conversation was anything but diplomatic. Rumors swirled of the Brit declaring, "I didn't come here to dance for Leclerc's kingdom. I came here to conquer." Suddenly, the garage split in two. Allies drew lines. Data wasn't shared. Trust collapsed into factions. On one side, those backing the Monégasque prodigy. On the other, those who still believed in Hamilton's ability to resurrect the prancing horse. It wasn't sport anymore. It was civil war with torque settings. Whispers from within Maranello confirmed the worst suspicions. This wasn't a logistical error or miscommunication. It was sabotage, premeditated and politically charged. A segment of the team, threatened by Hamilton's star power and potential to overshadow their golden boy, had moved preemptively to clip his wings. Leclerc had the emotional capital, years in red, deep roots in Ferrari's DNA. Hamilton brought disruptive power, championships, global magnetism. To some inside Ferrari, that made him dangerous. So they delayed his upgrade. Fed excuses. Sold him theories about rollout strategy and correlation data. But the intentions were darker. A quiet war was being fought, and Hamilton had just realized he was a target. By Friday, the atmosphere inside the Ferrari paddock was suffocating. Hamilton arrived with a demeanor that could cut through titanium, eyes blank, expression unreadable, posture rigid. His car was erratic, unresponsive, like it didn't want to cooperate. Meanwhile, Leclerc's SF24 danced through the S's as if defying physics. Over team radio, Hamilton's words dropped like icicles. "Is this really the same setup?" The reply was stammered hollow. "Yes, with the exception of the floor." The silence that followed was more deafening than any scream. That night, a private meeting was convened. Hamilton walked in alone. Inside, the air turned volcanic. He dismantled the culture of concealment, accused key figures of shielding Leclerc while isolating him like a stranger. "You invited me into this house," he allegedly said, and then locked every door from the inside. There were no ultimatums. He didn't need them. The message was chilling: adapt, or he'd reduce the entire operation to rubble with nothing but his truth. Tensions escalated beyond repair. Some team members whispered dismissively, "He won't make it here. Charles owns this place." Others, deeply unnerved, admitted the possibility that they had just alienated the only man capable of delivering them a title after years of false dawns. When race day finally arrived, the paddock had already been scorched. No one cared about lap times or pit strategies. The real spectacle was the animosity on display. Leclerc and Hamilton shared no gestures. No nod. No acknowledgement. Just icy avoidance. The cameras tried to capture racing. But what they caught instead were glances sharper than broken carbon fiber, smiles that never reached the eyes, and a team visibly tearing at the seams. Online, the wildfire spread. Social media detonated. Hashtag Ferrari Civil War trended across continents. Hamilton loyalists cried foul play. Leclerc defenders dug in. The Ferrari comms team spun furiously, vague statements, robotic press releases, carefully worded denials. But the avalanche had started. And it was unstoppable. This wasn't a technical dispute. This was existential. Who really commands the Scuderia? Who gets sacrificed when politics collide with performance? Who defines the soul of a team that has spent decades teetering between greatness and chaos? Insiders now suggest that Hamilton's entourage is already exploring a path back to Mercedes. That Toto Wolff is watching intently, arms crossed, smirking. That Leclerc's agents are drafting statements of clarification. That corporate sponsors, the silent puppeteers, are seething. That deep within Maranello, the alarm bells aren't ringing, they're screaming. The dream of Hamilton leading Ferrari into a golden era? Flickering. Fading. Possibly extinguished. What remains is a smoldering wreckage of a partnership that never had a chance, strangled by internal power plays, egos, and betrayal. The Hamilton-Leclerc alliance was sold as a revolution. What it became was a lesson in how fast loyalty can be weaponized, and how fast Formula One can turn gods into ghosts. This isn't just a scandal. It's a warning shot to every team in the paddock. It's proof that sometimes the fiercest battles in racing are fought off track, in whispers, glances, and decisions no one dares admit were ever made. Welcome to the dark heart of Ferrari, where the knives aren't just sharp. An individual who witnessed the chaos firsthand, someone who would later admit they feared for their career just by being in the room, painted the mood inside Ferrari's debrief not as tense, but apocalyptic. It wasn't silence, it was a loaded stillness, like a pressure cooker moments before rupture. The kind of atmosphere where people stop breathing out of instinct. And at the center of it all stood Lewis Hamilton, just out of the car after a miserable FP1 riddled with balance issues, confusing telemetry drops, and a car that refused to cooperate, glaring at the data screen with the intensity of a man solving a murder. His expression? Blank. But his silence was screaming. No one needed to guess. He was seconds from going thermonuclear. Then came the moment everything cracked. A junior performance engineer, too fresh to know when to shut up, decided to offer his interpretation. He pointed to a minor but undeniable discrepancy between Hamilton's and Leclerc's ERS usage in Sector 2. With a sheepish tone, almost apologetic, he said, "Looks like Charles had a touch more deployment coming out of turn 6. Could be a calibration thing. Maybe that's the delta." The air turned ice. Lewis leaned forward. Eyes locked. Movements deliberate. His gaze traced the telemetry as if it were a confession. The room held its breath. Then came the blade. "So now the story is the data's lying to me," he said, every syllable dipped in acid. "Just say it. Just say he's your chosen one and stop feeding me sanitized lies." The young engineer looked like he'd seen a ghost. No one said a word as he packed up his laptop, hands visibly shaking. He walked out. And never came back. Not to another meeting. Not to the garage. Gone. Some murmured he quit on the spot. Others claim he was pulled from the project to prevent escalation. Whatever the truth, his exit wasn't the climax, it was the matchstick. The explosion? That was coming. By the next morning, Ferrari was a haunted house. Tension wasn't spoken, it was worn. It clung to everyone's skin like humidity before a storm. No one looked each other in the eyes. Conversations were whispered, nervous, clipped. Even Frederic Vasseur, usually so hands-on, had gone ghost. No media appearances. No briefings. Just silence and locked doors. Everyone in that paddock knew the situation was one spark away from combustion. When FP2 began, the contrast was night and day. Leclerc looked unbothered, flowing through the circuit like a man on rails. Fast, confident, smug, like he owned every apex. He lit up the timing charts like a Christmas tree. Meanwhile, Hamilton was battling a machine that looked like it wanted him off the track. Massive understeer. Delayed throttle response. Top-end drag that made no logical sense. It was like watching a world champion fight an invisible enemy, and losing. He was nowhere near Charles. And yet, none of that was the main event. The real moment began when Lewis stepped out of the car. No greetings. No glances. Not a single word to the engineers. He removed his helmet in slow motion, face like stone, and walked straight into the debrief with a presence that felt radioactive. Not shouting. Not flustered. Just calculated, surgical fury. Inside, Charles was chatting with his engineer in fluent, lazy French, half-laughing, sipping from a branded bottle, glowing with calm. Like FP2 had been a spa day. Lewis marched in, didn't break stride, didn't sit, didn't blink. He zoomed in on turn 6 on the data screen. That was the spark. Why is his deployment higher out of turn 6? Lewis asked, tone laced with accusation. That's not the setup I was given. Silence. And then casually, Leclerc dropped a bomb. Maybe try talking to your engineer instead of crying, he said, not even bothering to meet Hamilton's gaze. Time stopped. Lewis didn't raise his voice. He didn't explode. He just stepped forward with the kind of precision you see before a predator pounces. You're not confident, he said, voice sharp as ice. You're coddled. This whole operation has been built around protecting you. You don't win. You get handed victories. Charles stood. Calm. Relaxed. Deadly. You don't belong here, Lewis, he said, voice almost kind. This isn't your empire. This isn't your team. You're just visiting. That was it. Hamilton hurled the telemetry tablet across the room with a violence that stunned everyone. It hit the wall and shattered like glass under a sledgehammer. People ducked. One engineer dropped a coffee. Another gasped out loud. And then the door opened. Right on cue. Vasseur walked in mid-chaos. Just in time to catch the fallout. Hamilton spun around, fury radiating off him like heat from a furnace. You brought me here for what? He demanded. To be a backup singer in Charles Leclerc's solo concert? To be lied to about configurations and find out about upgrades only after he's already used them in practice? You treat him like he's the Messiah and me like a tourist. Vasseur raised a hand, maybe to calm, maybe to answer, but Lewis cut him off like a guillotine. I didn't come here to play second fiddle. I didn't leave Mercedes to be muted. You want me quiet, obedient, grateful? Wrong guy. Get honest with me or I walk. I'll leave before the summer break. Watch me. Leclerc, arms crossed, still calm, still composed, looked Lewis in the eye and dropped the last match into the fire. Then walk, he said. Nobody's holding you here. This isn't Brackley. You don't get to throw your weight around and expect the world to bend. The room shifted. One of the engineers had to physically step between them. That's how close they were. Hamilton didn't reply. He locked eyes with Leclerc, said nothing, then turned and walked out with such force that the door rattled in its hinges when it slammed shut behind him. He missed the next debrief. He avoided the media. He ignored every internal message. And that night, whispers started flying, that he demanded a solo call with Ferrari president John Elkann. That he wanted to speak privately, no engineers, no management, no filters. Some believe he's drawing a line. Others say he's planning his exit. And one particularly wild rumor claims Toto Wolff has already reached out. One thing is undeniable. Whatever fairy tale this was supposed to be is over. This isn't a team anymore. It's a battleground. So this is what passes for leadership now. Lewis Hamilton's voice didn't just cut through the Ferrari debrief room. It detonated inside it like a thunderclap tearing through glass. The atmosphere imploded. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. It wasn't a question. It was a reckoning. It was a 7-time world champion unleashing years of restraint, each syllable soaked in venomous disbelief, betrayal, and rage that had been simmering beneath the surface like magma under pressure. You really gonna sit there and let that pampered little poser throw dirt on my name while you keep feeding him upgrades under the table like he's some royal heir to your racing empire? What is this, Formula One or a soap opera set in high school? Time froze. Engineers halted mid-keystroke, afraid to move. Strategists suddenly became deeply fascinated with telemetry they didn't understand. The silence wasn't just awkward, it was suffocating, heavy, and volatile. Every molecule in that room was waiting to combust. Across the room, Charles Leclerc leaned casually against the wall, arms folded with calculated arrogance, his smirk the perfect cocktail of mockery and challenge. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His expression said everything. Come on, old man. Let's dance. But before Leclerc could open his mouth, Frédéric Vasseur, the team principal who had somehow kept the chaos of the season under control like a man juggling grenades, finally cracked. He stepped forward, voice tense, tone rising with manufactured authority. That's enough. Both of you. We are not. Hamilton didn't even let him finish. He slammed through Vasseur's sentence like a runaway car hitting a wall at full speed. You promised me something different, Lewis snarled, voice low but seething. You looked me in the eyes, face to face, and told me I'd be treated as an equal. That I wasn't here to carry water. That I was here to lead. And I believed you. God help me, I trusted you. But this? This is a joke. No worse. This is a betrayal wrapped in Scuderia red. No one moved. Not a soul. Even the flickering LED lights above seemed to dim in reverence to the silence that followed. The espresso machine in the corner gave up trying to gurgle. The room had become a cathedral of tension. Vasseur, now visibly rattled, his confidence cracked like a hairline fracture in carbon fiber, tried again. His voice trembled like a man who just realized the storm was much bigger than he anticipated. Lewis, we've given you what you asked for. The setup, the personnel, your tailored development path. If this no longer feels like the right fit, then, maybe we underestimated the situation. There it was. The moment. The detonation point. Hamilton didn't shout this time. He didn't have to. The cold fury in his eyes burned hotter than any scream. Underestimated, he said, voice steady and lethal. You didn't underestimate, you used me. You brought me here to polish your image, to score headlines, to play savior to your flailing legacy. You paraded me around like a crown jewel for the sponsors, like some collectible legend in your glass case of nostalgia. But you never intended to build with me. You built a circus. And I was your main attraction. Then he turned. Locked eyes with Leclerc. The room dropped 5 degrees. You never wanted me here. You wanted me on the poster, but not on the podium. You wanted my shadow, not my fire. You're not racing for titles. You're racing to stay relevant. And I'm not your prop. Charles stepped forward now, veins throbbing at his temples, fists clenched as though every syllable from Hamilton had been a slap to the face. You think you're still the king, Lewis? You're just an artifact in a sport that's moved on without you. You're not the future, you're an echo. They were face to face now, breathing the same electric air. The kind of face-off that doesn't need fists to be violent. The kind that could ignite a riot with one wrong breath. And then, Hamilton did something even more devastating than shouting. He whispered. But his whisper cut like a scalpel dipped in ice. Entitled puppet. Monaco mannequin. You were born into privilege. I fought for every inch. I wasn't raised in paddocks. I clawed my way into them. I didn't inherit legacy. I became it. And I'm not here to babysit a glass doll in racing boots. That was the second explosion. Not literal, but seismic. Because that's when security entered. Not assistants. Not interns. Security. The kind of security you only see when things have gone catastrophically wrong. Full earpieces, reinforced vests, trained to neutralize, not negotiate. They didn't stroll in. They swarmed in like a SWAT team crashing a black tie gala. One approached with surgical caution. Sir, we need to de-escalate. But Lewis wasn't finished. He turned slowly, calm as a hurricane eye, and delivered a final blow with a chill of absolute certainty. I'll leave when I say so. Not because some overhyped prince got his ego bruised. Not because your boardroom flinched. When I walk out, it'll be because I already won the only thing that matters. Truth. Then he walked. Not a glance backward. Not a hint of hesitation. Just silence behind him and chaos waiting ahead. The room imploded. No one spoke. No one moved. The tension dissolved into a stunned vacuum where even thought felt too loud. He skipped the next 3 meetings. He ghosted team messages, ignored direct calls, disappeared from the paddock like a shadow at sunrise. No Instagram stories. No sightings. Just gone. Like a warning shot that had already hit its mark. By sundown, the rumor mill had reached overdrive. He cleared his suite at the hotel. His physio booked a last-minute Gulfstream out of Europe. He contacted Toto Wolff. Legal teams were mobilized to investigate internal telemetry manipulation. Ferrari HQ hit crisis mode. Sponsors hit the panic button. Shell rerouted executives mid-conference from Tokyo to Milan. Puma demanded clarity. Richard Mille began threatening to withdraw campaigns. 5 separate press releases were written, scrapped, rewritten, and deleted within 2 hours. Then it escalated again. At exactly 11:47 p.m. local time, Hamilton dropped a message on X. No video. No hashtags, except one. No emojis. Just raw, brutal text on a black screen. Legacy isn't bought. Legacy isn't gifted. Legacy is earned. Remember that. Number 44-inch. The paddock lost its mind. Reddit servers slowed. Sky Sports went live with a midnight panel. WhatsApp groups in every team lit up like Christmas. Mercedes fans cried. Ferrari fans rioted. Netflix demanded immediate access to any and all internal footage. And inside Ferrari's Maranello offices, the realization finally hit. This wasn't just a driver fallout. This was a legend declaring war. And Ferrari? They'd just become the battleground. You thought you knew drama in Formula One? Forget everything. What just erupted at Suzuka isn't a controversy, it's a cataclysm, a complete detonation of the sport's delicate balance. Formula One didn't just stumble into a PR disaster, it's been hurled into a firestorm that's consuming everything in its path. This isn't speculation. This isn't clickbait. It's a brutal, unfiltered reality unfolding in real time. And right at the heart of this explosive inferno, Sir Lewis Hamilton. The legend. The icon. Now ousted in a move so staggering, so ruthless, it's rattling fans and insiders to their core. It began with something so deceptively minimal it almost seemed irrelevant. No blown engine. No fiery crash. Just one quiet moment broadcast to millions. A single, haunting Instagram story. Barely 9 seconds. No soundtrack. No filter. Just Hamilton, hood pulled low, shoulders slouched, sitting in eerie solitude inside his motorhome. The air around him seemed heavy, haunted. And then, like a knife to the gut, came the message. Surrounded by snakes. But I've always walked alone. Gone within minutes. Deleted. But not before it detonated across the internet like a sonic boom. Screenshots hit every group chat, every media server, every Slack channel from Monaco to Miami. In garages, the image flashed on engineers' phones. In hospitality suites, team principals traded looks of quiet horror. And then, Ferrari moved. 7:32 a.m. on race day. Hamilton's inbox received the kill shot, a termination notice so emotionless it might as well have been AI-generated. Cold. Precise. Lethal. His contract? Voided. His credentials? Cancelled. His legacy at Ferrari? Obliterated in a single, surgical strike. No phone call. No explanation. Just an impersonal purge, citing irreparable damage, ethical violations, and a breach of core values. In one swift motion, they turned the golden boy into a ghost. As the paddock gates opened, his presence was already being erased. Nameplates vanished. Mechanics dismantled his setup like it was contaminated. The telemetry station that once pulsed with his data flickered to black. Engineers who once stood proudly at his side were reassigned without a word. His race suit? Packed away like it belonged to a stranger. And just like that, the 7-time world champion became a phantom. Inside the team, chaos erupted. Carlos Sainz, ashen-faced, visibly shaken, refused to speak. He skipped briefings. His father, a racing titan himself, launched into a heated exchange with a senior executive so intense that security personnel physically stepped in. Charles Leclerc, always the company man, stuck to his lines like a hostage reading from cue cards. "We're focusing on performance," he said, with all the warmth of a marble statue. No heart. No support. Just corporate ice. But if Ferrari thought silence would save them, they were wrong. Because outside their fortress, the storm was building. Sponsors began dialing in emergency meetings. Brand executives were left reeling, unsure if they were backing a team or stepping into a reputational sinkhole. Whispers turned into shouts. Was this a calculated exit strategy by Hamilton? A kamikaze post meant to set the whole house ablaze? Or had Ferrari driven him so far into isolation that his only weapon left was digital rebellion? Theories are swirling. Some insiders allege internal sabotage. Others claim Hamilton was cut from strategy briefings entirely. There's even talk of deliberate miscommunication, leaving him vulnerable on track, blind in the cockpit, set up to fail. And fans? They're not waiting for the facts. They've declared war. Social media has gone nuclear. The hashtag Justice for Lewis is flooding timelines with such volume it's breaking language barriers. Instagram Reels. TikToks. Reddit threads with thousands of comments per minute. Even A-list celebrities, actors, musicians, athletes, are weighing in, accusing Ferrari of orchestrating the most disgraceful character assassination the sport has ever seen. But the most haunting part of all this? Hamilton's absolute, unnerving silence. Not a press release. Not a video. Not even a cryptic emoji. And yet, that silence is the loudest message of all. It's not defeat. It's tactical. It's the calm before a verbal apocalypse. Because when Hamilton finally speaks, it won't be a statement, it'll be a sledgehammer. And the shockwaves will rip straight through Ferrari HQ, shaking every marble floorboard and gold-plated trophy shelf. Inside sources suggest Mercedes is already making discreet overtures. McLaren's CEO has been spotted having private discussions in hotel lobbies. Aston Martin's team principal has been unusually quiet on the subject. This isn't exile. It's a prelude. Hamilton will return. Not humbled. Not broken. But reborn. And when that moment comes, the entire motorsport world will freeze. Because the man Ferrari tried to erase is about to become the story they'll never be able to bury. Suzuka 2025 wasn't just a race. It was a reckoning. It was the moment Formula One crossed a line it can't uncross. When legacy clashed with loyalty, and control tried to suffocate greatness. This wasn't a contract ending. It was a public execution. And the ghost of that decision now haunts every paddock, every podium, every press briefing. The engines roared. The champagne flowed. But something felt wrong. Because the man who should have been there, the champion, the warrior, the face of the sport, was gone. His seat sat empty, but his presence was everywhere. A silent shadow clinging to every corner of Suzuka, impossible to ignore. And the most chilling truth of all? He was never really gone. He was just waiting.